What's going on, guys and girls? Today we're going to be talking pitch decks. Now, this is obviously a very important part of building our business. We need to be able to get out there and get people behind us and ultimately raise some money to be able to actually build our solution, our business, whatever it may be. But with that said, oftentimes when I talk to new startups, people with a side hustle, or people just with an idea, one of the first things they say to me is, Charles, I need funding. Now, yes, of course, you need funding, but the reality is nobody funds ideas anymore. The days of what we used to hear where somebody came up with a really good idea and pitched it and got a ton of money to go away and build their idea, that just doesn't exist anymore. And particularly in today's economy, in today's climate, there's just no chance of that sort of thing happening anymore unless you get incredibly lucky. So how do we combat this? Well, what we need to do is we need to actually craft a very clear message, a very clear story around exactly what it is we're doing and why people should get behind what we're doing, and actually show them that this is more than idea. This is actually a complete solution that we have worked out, and that we've done all of our homework that this is a viable market. People want you to prove to them that you know what you're talking about, that you know the industry that you plan on entering, and that you know exactly how to monetize that particular niche, industry, problem, whatever it may be. So to just say I need funding is not a good place to start at all. What you need is you need a message. You need a very clear, crafted message, and that is what we're going to cover today. So with that said, here's a little bit of what we're going to cover in this particular series. Now, this is going to be a multi-part series that I'm going to be putting together for you all, and it's going to cover a few different stages. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the different types of pitch decks. Then I'm going to actually take you through a basic deck structure. I'm going to provide you with a template which you can use to actually build out your own pitch deck as well. And once we've got the basics out the way, then we can worry about the more advanced deck structure topics and slides that we need to add in. Building a pitch deck can feel a little bit overwhelming at times. And so I'm going to be breaking this down into little pieces so that it's really easy to digest and really easy for you to go through and build your pitch deck piece at a time, and make sure that you've got all the right bits of information in place for the people that you're going to be pitching to ultimately. Now, having a good pitch deck is a great start. It gets us a lot of the way there. But ultimately, it all comes down to your ability to actually pitch your idea as well. So together, we're going to be working a lot on how to actually pitch your business, whether it be to investors, customers, friends and family, you name it. That is exactly what we're going to be focusing on in that section. Because as you can imagine, do we want somebody that's saying, oh, this is a really good idea and I kind of think that you should get on board? Or do we want somebody who's really interested, really passionate, and really keen to explain to you why there's this problem, why there's a solution we need, and why we are the one to provide that solution, and ultimately why you need to give me money so that I can build that solution? Much better, right? So, with that said, let's take a look first of all at the different types of decks. Now, this is something that is extremely important to understand when it comes to pitch decks. Lots of founders that I talk to out there, when I start talking to them about their pitch decks, they go, oh, yep, I have a pitch deck. And I go, okay, great, how many? And they say, what do you mean? I have a pitch deck. Okay. So the thing you need to understand about pitch decks is you're not going to have one. You need to tailor your pitch deck to your audience, and your audience is going to be different virtually every single time you pitch, and it's also going to change as your business evolves. So let's look at the kind of 4 most common pitch decks to start with. There are lots of others in between this, but in my experience, these are the 4 most common ones. The first one is what I call the networking deck, or what you'll often hear referred to as the friends and family pitch. So this initial deck is the one that you're going to use within your immediate network. It might be friends and family, it might be business connections that you have, it might be your initial target market even that you're planning on trying to get on board with your idea. So as I say, within each of these different audiences, we're going to have to tweak and change our language and our messaging a little bit, because there's no point in telling somebody in our network why you need $10 million. That's the type of thing that you say for an institutional investor. But there are other levers we can pull to get them excited, to get them on board. And obviously, if we're pitching at that level, we're probably asking for a lot less money or a lot less support. So we need to adjust our pitch accordingly. Next is our customer deck. So this is the deck that we use to actually go out and start getting customers excited. Now, as you've seen in our program, or as you will see if you haven't got there yet, that we talk a lot about going out and actually building a community around your idea long before you start spending a heap of money on product development. Now, if you're following that process, this customer deck is really important and is often combined with some of the other things we teach around building landing pages and building customer surveys. But essentially, the customer deck is the thing that you need to be able to put in front of them and really relate to them straight away. With your customer deck, they need to look at it, and within the first 10 seconds, they need to go, that's me. They need to immediately see themselves in your pitch deck and see the pain that you describe as a pain that they're having. And so by the time you go to revealing the solution, they're sitting on the edge of their seat waiting to know why you are going to solve that pain for them. Next, we have the angel investor deck. Now, this is where we're starting to actually raise some reasonably good money. Within the angel deck, the thing you need to understand is that there are lots of different reasons why people become angel investors. And so oftentimes, if you're going to be out pitching to angels, you need to actually do a little bit of homework beforehand to understand who is the angel that you're pitching to, or who is the angel association that you're pitching to. What are they interested in, and what type of businesses do they back? There's no point in you spending all this time trying to get in front of an angel group to find out that that angel group only deals in agriculture and you're pitching a software product that's nothing to do with agriculture, or that that angel group is really focused on early stage startups and you're a little bit further down the track, or vice versa. They only focus on people who have X amount of revenue and you're pre-revenue. So you're going to have to do some homework on who it is that you're pitching to once you get to that sort of angel level. And the other thing you need to understand is you need to do a bit of homework into the types of check sizes that they are willing to write. Once again, no point going to an angel association, do a whole big pitch event, and at the end say, I'm looking for $1 million, when the biggest check they've ever written was $10,000. You're wasting your time, you're wasting their time, and it's not really going to get you anywhere. So with angels, do your homework. Finally, we get to institutional investors. Once we get to this stage, we're really looking for big money. Now we're talking things like Series A, Series B rounds, that sort of thing, oftentimes in the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars that we're asking for. And at this stage, these guys are going to be taking you through a lot of due diligence. These guys, yes, they want to understand that you have an idea, that you have a solution to a problem, but by the time you're talking to institutional investors, they expect you to be a lot further along. They expect you to have proven your market, to know exactly who your customer is, or at least have a very strong idea of who your customer is, and they expect you to have worked out a lot of the kinks for building the business. These institutional investors basically want to pump money into you to do nothing other than increase your sales quite dramatically. And so you're going to be needing to prove to them that you're in a position where their money in is going to result in increased sales out the other end. If you can't do that, you're going to have a very hard time talking to these institutional investors. So as I say, 4 very different types of audiences, and each audience you're going to have to tailor to. We can work with you on exactly how to tailor to each one, But what I'm going to take you through today is how to start building your networking deck, and we're going to talk you through exactly how to build it across the template that we've created. You'll see there's a lot of different spots where we've just more or less spelled out exactly what you need to do. You just have to go in and pretty much fill the blanks. So we'll be covering that in our next video, but what I will do is, to tie this one off, I will just show you the basic deck structure that we're going to be going through so that you can understand exactly what we're going to be covering in this next stage. So there's a pretty common deck structure that is expected at the first few levels or those first few audiences. So what I've done here is I've spelled out exactly the key steps that we need to go through. And if you think back to what I said at the very beginning, this is storytelling. This is not some big encyclopedia full of information. This needs to be short, sharp bits of information that help tell our story and help tell customers exactly why they need to be part of what we're doing. So we're going to start off by talking about the problem that the world, the particular demographic, etc., is facing, and what the challenge is within that particular problem. So what is the day-to-day challenge that people are facing? From there, we break it down further into what is the actual pain that is coming out of those challenges. So I'll talk a lot more about what pain is versus a challenge as we go through, but it is really important that we create a distinction between the key challenge and the actual pain points that people are facing. Next, we want to talk about what the size of the opportunity is. This is where we start hinting to people why this is a big opportunity and why they should be on board. And then with all of that covered, we should have everybody sort of sitting on the edge of their seat wanting to know, okay, there's a really big problem out there. There's a really big market that's ready to be tapped into. What's the answer? You are going to tell them the answer, but you're not going to tell them it's you yet at this point. You're going to explain and show that you know what the answer is to this particular problem because you're an industry expert, you've done the research, you've done the homework, you've worked with the people to understand exactly what the answer is. And then once they understand what the answer is to the problem, then you can come in with what you as the solution are to that problem and how you're going to be the answer. Now, keep in mind, this is only stage one of the ultimate pitch deck that you're going to build. Normally, I would not recommend the ask, which is the piece where you actually tell them what you need from them, and by them I mean the investors. Normally, I would not say leave that at the end, but for this basic deck structure, we're going to have the ask kind of at the end of the problem solution phase, and you'll see how that plays into the bigger, longer form deck later on. The ask is really, as I say, where we start going out and telling people what we need from them and what we're going to give back to them in return for their funding, their support, their networks, whatever that ask may be. The ask doesn't always have to be money. Obviously, if you're trying to raise funds to build your business, there's a good chance it's going to be. But it's something important to keep in mind that the ask can be a combination of both money and support. So guys, looking forward to going through this process with you. Jump into the Right Tech University where I will be loading this series of how to build your pitch and your pitch deck. And as always, jump into our group, ask any questions, and you will see as we go through the process, I give you a few spots where I'd like you to come back to the group and present what you've done so that we can help audit it along the way and make sure that you're on the right track before you spend too much time on all of this. So once again, looking forward to getting started with you guys, and we will see you in the group.